Hello, friends, and welcome to episode 56 of From the Van. It's a podcast from my van, where I have conversations with people who have relationships with residential vehicles. I'm your host, Marty Benson, and today's episode features Madelyn and Caleb from Patchwork Canteen and Christian Hinkle. They've all been on the podcast before, and we're doing something a little bit new. Because of the coronavirus, we can't really see anybody, and so we're having our podcasts over Zoom video conference. Madelyn and Caleb headed to Texas towards the beginning of the shutdown, where they're from, so that they could post up at one of their uncle's properties. And Christian tagged along with them for the first part of their trip out to parts of the Southwest and stuff. And I wanted to catch up with them. So five of us, got on a Zoom call, and we had a great conversation about their trip, about this new normal that we're experiencing, and sort of maybe how it's going to affect van life moving forward as we sort of see what shakes out of this whole pandemic situation. It was a super fun conversation, really good to catch up with them, and I hope you enjoy episode 56 of From the Van, featuring Christian Hinkle and Madelyn and Caleb from Patchwork Canteen. How are y'all?
Good.
Pretty good. I'm trying to get it to set up really quick. Let's see. That's all
Are you
right.
guys on the road right now?
No, we're stopped in Texas right now, but we're just in the van right now.
Okay. What's your program? What are you up to?
Do what?
What are you doing? Where are you headed?
We're posted up, man.
Okay.
Posted up. So we're my uncle has a place on the lake here in Texas. So yeah, it's like a little camper. So we came up here to get away, and it's like way out in the country. So one of the grocery stores, it like stays completely stocked up, so we can still get food and everything. So pretty legit.
Oh yeah. Is this the same location where you guys were planning on doing the event?
No, not at all.
Okay.
So that's a little
Opposite
further
side of the
west.
state.
Word.
What up, guys?
What, is that Hinkle?
Yeah,
Where
man,
is he?
it's on there too. If you're on a phone, I think if you swipe right, you can go to the gallery view, so you can see it.
Yeah.
I'm able to figure that out.
Yeah.
Got it.
We were just telling Christian, we've been getting a bunch of people on this Zoom thing, man.
Tell him what?
We were telling Christian, since we can't hang out with anybody, we've been like in the evening sometimes just getting wasted with people, sitting there. Do it, buddy.
Crack it. He knows the routine.
Marty's jealous of you, Christian.
I'm telling you, I wish I could.
It's been a wonderful sobriety plan for us. Ourselves to go to the store every once in a while.
Yeah.
We don't want to go to the store every day, and so I finish all the beer, and then I got a couple of sober days sometimes, which is nice.
Just get it all done early.
We go through like 30, 36 beers in 2 days, and then we don't drink for several days.
I know, like, when the quarantine thing first started, I saw this thing on Twitter, and someone was like, this is my third time going to get alcohol for the next 2 weeks in the past week.
For the next 2 weeks.
That's
It's hard.
I think we've eaten our candy the fastest. We keep getting these like huge bags of like
yeah, the
assorted
party
candy.
pack, like Halloween pack.
Yeah, and like just going crazy and finishing it on day 2.
Oops.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah, Sean and Crystal, we had some friends with us for a little bit, but they ended up heading out today, so it's just us again.
Yep, back to the solo quarantine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. You guys the three of you went out together for a while, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, adventure.
Yeah, Madelyn and Caleb were heading like back to Texas, I think was their plan. So I was kind of just tagging along. And then we ended up going separate ways in Utah. You guys headed east to Colorado, and I started heading south back just kind of towards San Diego. I didn't really have anywhere I needed to be. So once I split away from Madelyn and Caleb, I was kind of just more moseying around, not trying to move around too much.
How was it though?
It was
left.
Yeah, after
I haven't actually talked to Christian since we left.
Yeah, I mean we've like texted, but that was it.
I went to Valley of the Gods in Utah, and then Grand Canyon.
Was it cold though? Was it still just as
Grand
cold?
Canyon was cold. There was snow on the ground at the Grand Canyon, but like all the national parks are free right now, so I got to camp at the Grand Canyon for free. And there's
Wow,
pretty
that's awesome.
yeah, everything was free. Like literally, like every national park I would leave would close like a day after I left. Like they're all kind of closing behind me.
Yeah.
So I kind of lucked out, but I got
I
to
mean, go ahead.
I got to Anza Borrego and chilled there for a couple days, and then ended up linking up with Dave and Seth, and then we went back up north. We went to like Mammoth area.
Very cool.
Stayed at BLM land up there.
So where are you now?
I am in Idyllwild now at an Airbnb I got for a week. Tomorrow is actually my last day, so I just kind of came here because I didn't really know where else to go. I came here, did some laundry, had a place to chill, got my van and stuff, refill my water, all that good stuff.
That's crazy, dude. Because we were like, you know how we had been stressing the whole way about like where we're gonna get water, where we're gonna get food. But like ever since we got to my uncle's house, it's been like too easy.
It's too easy.
Like water, electric, because I don't have solar on the van, so I can just plug that in and get it charged back up. But you know, it's just been like
it was weird.
Nice.
Like on the road with Christian, it was like everywhere we were going, it was just like a wasteland. Nobody out there. Christian remembers it was weird. We were like, you know, in a sense, like we kind of felt bad because we were like, yeah, maybe, you know, it's not the best idea to travel, but in general, like we need to get out of the cities where it's, you know, a lot of people and really concentrated cases and everything. And it was weird because like the path that we went on and how like crazy dead it was, how all the groceries were just empty, and like gas stations, people were like not really there. They were just like gassing up and going, you know?
Yeah.
And then we got here and it was like this weird kind of like bubble. There was no cases in this specific county until like 3 days ago. There's
like people weren't even like there was like talk about it, but it wasn't like a huge deal like it was a month ago or whatever in California.
Yeah.
So
we thought it was kind of maybe just like slowed down, and maybe this side of the state just hadn't seen cases as much. But I honestly believe it's just the fact that everyone is so spread out here, and everyone lives on pretty big and pretty rural areas out here, big lots and everything. So I think just the fact that they're not having to get out, and their lifestyle has already been to like stay away from crowds and everything like that. So here it's like we've kind of just been set up and not really feeling the same effects of the virus as we were when we were on the road full time.
Yeah.
But you said they have cases there now?
Yeah, they just had the first case, like I said, a couple days ago, and it still, as of last night, was the only case in this county. So hopefully it stays that way.
What's the vibe when you go into the store there? What's the vibe like there?
Well, people have started like wearing masks and stuff. So it's pretty much like how California was when everything first started, but it's like just now happening here.
Yeah.
So like everybody's wearing masks and stuff. You know, toilet paper, all that has always been out since everything started.
Yeah, that's the only thing that's
But
been.
now people like actually starting to stick to the rules of like, all right, I'm not going to go out and be in groups, because like there were still people having parties and stuff.
Yeah, and I think like it has partly to do with the state, partly to do with the federal government, just everyone kind of saying like, a lot of people playing it off, you know, like, oh, it's not that big of a deal, or oh, you know, they're cracking jokes about it, which I do understand. Like, it's fun to laugh during these times just to help ourselves feel better about it, but at the same time, you know, take it seriously enough to keep yourself safe and other people safe. So now we're starting to notice. At first, you know, nobody was really participating. We were going into this one grocery store that did have, it was in a place that there was cases, and we saw people that were wearing the face mask, but it felt like, you know, maybe the lesser amount of people wearing masks and stuff.
Yeah.
What about you guys?
I noticed like a huge change just driving across to the California border. Like when I left Arizona and came back to California, I tried to do all my grocery shopping in Arizona in a bigger city, you know, that wasn't as rural, and got basically everything I needed. And then as soon as I crossed into California, I stopped somewhere else, and it was like huge line out the door. Like it was weird just because I was gone from California for so long. I had heard a lot of people tell me about how it had gotten, but I hadn't seen it for myself. And like, seeing that first grocery store with like the lines marked on the ground and a huge line and stuff, like it was weird for sure.
Yeah.
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 I mean, I can't go ahead.
We've been we've been posted up in Colette's mom's driveway for like almost 4 weeks, basically 4 weeks now.
Wow.
And we've only been going, she had a wisdom tooth issue, so she had to go to the oral surgeon last week.
Damn.
Get it pulled out.
Not yet. They can't do surgeries right now at all. So
What?
they gave me a bunch of drugs and it was infected, and they're like, yeah, we have to wait until this is over. But it was
Dang.
Oh
growing
my gosh.
right into my cheek, so it was really hurting, but it's doing better actually now.
Because of the meds.
Yeah. So
So
Yeah, I saw y'all's post about like you guys finished the van, and as soon as you finish the van, you're like stuck there.
it's been great though. I mean, we have so much more space, you know, and like the fact that we have such low overhead is really badass too, you know, because
Right.
most of us are unemployed now and we're filing for unemployment for the first time and all that. So it's like,
my car just broke down, so no more car insurance for me.
but
Yeah, they're cutting those bills.
yeah, we've been sticking really close. Like, only aside from the dentist, we've only gone down to Encinitas to get mail from my sister's house twice.
Yeah.
And we've been to the grocery store, and that's like basically it. But when we
have got in and out twice.
we got in and out.
I miss In-N-Out.
Yeah.
In the parking lot of the In-N-Out picking up some drugs from the CVS, and you could just smell it. And so it's like, we gotta go to In-N-Out now.
It lured you in.
Yeah,
But we
they're being real safe and strict.
yeah. Like a bunch of my surfing friends, we hadn't been to Encinitas in like 2.5 weeks until this Saturday, and a bunch of my surfing friends have been griping and complaining about the beaches being closed.
Yeah.
And the theory is that you can practice social distancing and surf at the same time, which is technically possible. And so I started thinking, I was like, well, do I agree with them or not? I really don't know, because I don't have any like context. And when we went to Encinitas this week, we drove down from Oceanside all the way down to Encinitas on the coast, and the number of people right next to each other biking and walking and everything, I was like, okay,
Not wearing masks.
Like, I was like, you've got to keep the beaches closed because people are going to party. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was blown away because we've been so cloistered away that I didn't understand that people were still congregating and out doing stuff. And
Yeah.
it's hard in a place with such population density too, you know?
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
talked, like an issue I've talked to, or I've heard like people from both sides about like the whole surfing thing, whether you should be allowed to surf or not, whether you should be allowed to go bike or not. And it's something I'm on the fence on because I can definitely see both sides. But yeah, I thought that was weird that you're allowed to go biking still, and they're in huge groups, all super tight, going from town to town, basically.
Yeah.
Surfing, you can't surf when you're stationary, usually by yourself. You're not going, 10, 20, 30 miles up or down either direction. So
Yeah.
Something interesting, I mean, it's just, and to me it just served as facts, because like Marty said, I'm not a doctor. I don't have context on like what this virus can do to people and everything, but something that was very obvious to us is we looked at the path that we had to take to get back to Texas. It's one of the main routes that you head east on, and if you look at that, where that highway is and where the cases are, it's like highway, cases, no cases, no cases, but it's like right by these highways. So obviously it's like, I mean, I don't know facts, but I can tell that where these people are traveling and where a lot of people are kind of like meeting up, this is places that there's hotspots. And I mean, you just can't deny that.
yeah.
That's something I've been really scared about is like, if you see the cases start to descend in all of these urban areas that have really locked down super hard, but they're starting to ascend in rural places that haven't locked down yet, right? They get the cases. And then you've got truck drivers driving from Indiana into Chicago or whatever. It's like, are we going to see another spike as a result of that? There's this weird wave that the curve is probably going to take. And
Yeah. I think it's going to take a while, and it's like the biggest thing obviously on my mind is when can we travel again?
yeah,
Like when is it okay? And because I don't think it's just like, oh, April 30th and then everything's up and running. I don't think that's going to happen at all.
REI is not opening until July 15th, and even then
Nice.
Wow.
it's gonna be curbside, like only a curbside pickup. And then we'll
It's
Wow.
weird. 'Cause
like, it's gonna be a
it's
while
like-
for sure.
And we're so like, you know, in the van, we don't have a TV. We have streaming, you know, so we'll watch different stuff. But just being at this camp, we've been in the cabin and we turned the TV on, I think maybe for the first time yesterday, and like turned the news on. And we were just like, typically we'll just get our news off the internet, but we're watching and it's like, you know, I haven't seen commercials in a long time. And as these commercials are playing, it is so almost creepy, like very eerie, because every single commercial is like, we're going digital now, everything's digital. And then it's like, in a
But
way,
how long does that last even? Like,
or does it last forever? You know, like, do a lot of these places just say, actually forget the risk, like we're just gonna do, you know, online pickup and curbside? And I'm curious to see, like,
it's gonna change the mindset of a lot of people, which is cool because I think it changes it for the better in
Yeah.
some cases.
I mean,
yeah, I think in a lot of ways for sure.
if you can, so many people in the American economy can work from home. You know, if you're in a service industry or manufacturing or distribution or something, obviously you have to move around. But so many people could theoretically work from home. I'm hoping that this transition results in a whole lot more telecommuting, you know? Because if
Yeah.
you can work from home, why create the vehicular congestion and all of that of
Yeah.
going to an office? And I hope that that's one positive thing that comes out of this. And I mean, if you look at the like environmental statistics all over the place, greenhouse gas emissions are so down right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
And
canals.
imagine all of the I think that it's better now because people have been forced into their homes. So because of like not having anything to do, then they're forced to learn the technology as well. Madelyn and I were talking because one of the ways that we've made income on the road is working through like grocery delivery apps. Well, during this time, we didn't necessarily want to do it, but all of the deliveries more than like tripled or quadrupled
Yeah. So
per
this is
per
just like,
city. But going into that, it's like now people know about the app. So before they didn't even know about it. So now it's like a good thing for us because when we get done, you know, if that many more people are ordering groceries, we'll have more work for us later on.
Yeah. What do you guys think about traveling? I want the three of you guys to tell us all about your trip and shit in a minute, but we've been debating, I want to get your thoughts on this. We've been debating about potentially going up to like the Kern River area in a couple of weeks or something like that. And we've been talking about whether it's ethical for us to do that or not.
Yeah.
You know, the national forest up there is still open. And to the extent that we're capable, because we do have solar, of like stocking up on 2 weeks worth of food and going up there and boondocking and shit, like it's totally
Right.
possible that we could make it such that we would never see anybody else.
Yeah.
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 People don't know if it's okay for us to do it.
And I definitely like thought about that a lot when I was traveling with Madelyn and Caleb. Like, should I be doing this? Is this right? Is this wrong? But like, I think one thing I noticed is like I came into contact with far fewer people than I think I would have if I would have stayed in Encinitas, because I mean, I live in a van. You can't expect me to be in that van 24/7 for 2 or 3 weeks. I have to get out sometime.
Yeah.
And there's times when I'm out of the van. If I were in Encinitas, I'm sure I would have come into contact with a lot more people than, I mean, on our trip, I think we maybe talked to 2 or 3, if that, like people the whole time.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, seriously.
Because if you look at at our lifestyle in general, you're doing pretty dang good if you can stay away. Because like generally we're in the population, we're in the public bathroom. So even just taking those things away, we're doing more.
We're already
good than-
cutting back a lot, I think. And as far as what you're saying is, you know, ethical and traveling and everything, I really don't know if there's a straightforward answer for that, because I think it depends on the style that you travel. I think it depends on how much you can really stock up before you have to go back into these stores. And I also think it's a thing of, if you're from, you know, let's just say San Diego, and you're going to travel 2.5 hours west, or northeast or something, you know, and that's where you're headed. Well, if you got your groceries in San Diego and then you're 2 weeks set up and you're all good, I mean, you never had to come into contact with anyone. So there's so many situations, you know, depending on each person. Some people can really stock up. As far as us, we can go 8 to 10 days max before we really have to go back to the store. But, that's because we have a tiny van. But I think, if you're limiting at all the amount of people you're coming into contact with, I think that traveling wouldn't be bad. If you were in a populated area like we were, or like all three of us were, we decided to leave. And that was just for the fact of, hey, I know I'm traveling and I'm moving, but I know that I'm going to keep myself away for 14 days from all of the public to make sure that I'm not sick. And after I do that, or I guess 21 days now, after I do that, I know I'm not sick. I know I'm not spreading it to more people. I
Just
don't
wear
think
gloves
it's a
and a
problem.
mask at the gas station. I'd call it good, to be
Yeah.
honest.
I'm kind of just like traveling responsibly. Like,
Right.
I would wipe down the gas station pump with a Clorox wipe, gloves, mask, all that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, if I were to stay in San Diego, I would have had to still go out and get groceries anyway, and there probably would have been just as many people there as another grocery store. So
Yeah.
Madelyn
Or just as many, triple the
made-
people going through.
yeah, I made sure to like get my groceries for as long as I possibly could before I left San Diego. And then when it comes time to get more groceries, I tried to go to cities where the coronavirus is already like there in case
Right.
I'm knowingly carrying it, without any symptoms. I wouldn't want to bring it to some super small rural town that doesn't have
Right.
hospitals to accommodate for that. So we tried to get our groceries in like larger towns that were already affected by the virus in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Just being careful with like masks, gloves, and things like that for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, just traveling responsibly ultimately.
Yeah, me and Caleb actually, we've been working on some different things, and we thought of roam responsibly. So we're gonna cut it out and make it a sticker.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, thinking about it, I haven't been into any stores. Marty just goes in because we try to limit like how
Yep.
we're
Then, like, having less
better
people
one
go.
less than two of us essentially.
Yeah.
Right.
If we were going to go and say go out for 2 weeks, then we would be cutting down on our trips to the store.
Yeah.
Now, because
Yeah.
maybe how many times do you think we go a week?
Probably 2 or
Twice a week.
maybe 3 sometimes.
Yeah, it kind of just
Yeah.
It's about beer.
Yeah.
all about it. But if
I mean,
we're strict and we're like, okay, we're gonna get all the stuff that we think we need for these 2 weeks. We're gonna get a bunch of water. We're gonna stock up, and we just sit somewhere for 2 weeks with all that stuff. Then it almost forces us to be even more strict. So
yeah,
it's how you go about it.
I wonder, it's just like Caleb was saying earlier, they say, oh, by this date, we hope this is going to happen. And Christian said REI is not even opening until July. And it's like, I think all of us are going to collectively have to determine what traveling responsibly would mean for us, like I said, and also when. And I think that's going to be based on the areas that you're in. For us here, like we said, it seems like it's just now starting to kind of affect Texas. There's been cases here and everything, but it's just like, at some point, we live in our vans. That for some of us has been a choice, for some of us not, maybe. But, for the ones that have chosen to do it, this is part of the things that we knew that sometimes would be difficult, part of the problems that we would have, and that would be the inconveniences of living in a tiny space and being, quarantined in a tiny space. But I think at some point we're going to have to, if this continues to go on like it has been, we're going to have to continue this lifestyle. And either that means we're going to implement more rules, like, leave no trace. We have all these things, but maybe there's more, about cleaning up the bathroom before you use it. Like there could just be more things that we can do better to help our lifestyle sustain.
Yeah, I think like it doesn't look like it's going to be going back to normal anytime soon. So this kind of is like the new normal. And
Right.
like you kind of just got to make the most of it, I think, and be like as safe and responsible as you can with it. But like personally, I can't just like trap myself, like I said, in my van for that long. So I'm just making the most of what like the situation we're in and trying to be as like safe and responsible about the situation as possible while still making sure that like I'm not like hating my life, being trapped in a van. I'm still like making sure I'm getting out, getting exercise, and just doing it responsibly. So
That's all you can do.
yeah.
Well, it sounds like all of us are sort of like gravitating towards a similar situation too. Like you guys are at your uncle's camp, and Christian, you're probably headed to your mom's before too long.
Probably.
And we're at Colette's mom's, and I feel like a whole bunch of people, like Jared is up at Nomadic Customs up in Portland, like hanging out with those guys, and I think there are a few vans there, and I know a guy who's got a place in Alabama. who's I think sort of hosting some people because he's got a little bit of property or whatever, and invited some van folks to come over to his place. But let's stop talking about the coronavirus for a minute. Tell me about this trip. I want to know specifically about that weird abandoned industrial place that I saw rad.
Oh, that was the good stuff.
Right?
What?
I think that was the first place we stopped, right?
Yeah. So we went to Mojave first. That was kind of, like the closest place on the route that we were going that we felt comfortable stopping camping. And it was so desolate out there. I think we drove like 30 to 45 minutes just like off-road. We stopped at a couple things that we really...
But the deal is that Christian doesn't have 4-wheel drive. So
Oh yeah, that was really awesome.
That's the real kicker of everything that we did, like getting when we were on our way back to Texas. And but go ahead.
But yeah, we off-roaded with Christian, who's not an off-roader, but it worked and it was awesome. And we just kind of like come around this little sort of tiny mountain, I guess, and all of a sudden it's just this abandoned mill sitting at the top of the little mountain.
Mm-hmm.
And you could tell that they had been mining out there. And at first we thought, oh, there's no way like we're gonna be able to get up there. But as we drove, it was like, wait a minute. And we ended up pulling like right in where used to they would load 18-wheelers, with whatever they were mining for. So we got in there and we were able to explore all of it.
But it was pretty eerie. It was a pretty like eerie vibe, I guess, going into it, because it's like everything was pretty massive, and you could tell that it was definitely deserted. And some of the things were tagged up with spray paint, so it was a little apocalyptic looking going in.
Especially for the first kind of day that we had escaped in this apocalyptic world, It was like we got out there and we were like, it kind of set the tone of like, okay, this is the apocalypse.
Well, and the graffiti itself too. Didn't you guys say the graffiti was like from a certain group of people?
Yeah, so it was like all along this specific highway we were getting out there. I don't know if y'all have ever heard of the group In Decline, but they're just like a radical kind of I wouldn't even know how to really explain them. Just a radical group.
It's like anti-government, things like that.
Yeah, so they basically are just kind of for the people and
like anonymous is.
Do I?
It's like anonymous, but like less on the computer and more like real life stuff.
Right.
Like,
and more art.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they had tagged up the place and there's just different things. So there's just this kind of along the way of getting there, we had seen their tags on different stuff. And it just kind of had us feeling like in that moment of, the world's kind of in a weird place and the government.
Because we were literally planning like day to day. Because I usually like to keep about a week itinerary. And at that point it's like day to day. Like we don't know what's going to happen. Let's just get there. We don't know, where are we going to shop next? Where are you going to get gas next? Is all crazy. So being there, it really
it was surreal. Yeah, because it was completely silent. Like there's no one out there. You would look for miles around you and you wouldn't see anything or anyone. So it was very interesting to kind of like start our trip that way for sure.
It was really like random and unexpected. Like we weren't planning on going there. We were just kind of just driving around on some off-road trails and like came around a corner and there it was. So it was pretty cool.
How did your van do with it, Christian?
What's up?
How'd your van do with that?
Dude, I got stuck one time when I was with Madelyn and Caleb, but that was at a 4x4 required trail. And
the gnarliest trail we had ever been on. It was
but listen
crazy.
to this. I completed the entire trail without 4-wheel drive, and I got stuck after we got off the trail and we're going up the access road to the highway. We weren't even on the trail anymore.
It was so funny.
Yeah, so I was pretty stoked that like I did the entire 4-wheel drive trail without getting stuck, and like. But then
I don't know how you did it, dude.
Yeah.
I seriously, I still have terror flashbacks of mud and stuff just coming behind your rear wheel drive. It's the only thing. I was like, I don't know how you made it.
It was terrifying. That was just to catch y'all up. That was, we went to Mojave and then we stopped in Valley of Fire for the day. And then I think we kept driving, ended up getting into Utah and just stayed at like a BLM. And then hit Zion. Oh, yeah, Zion. That's right. Yeah, hit Zion the next morning. And what we're talking about, so we went to Zion. I guess we should talk about that because have y'all seen Angel's Landing and maybe some of our posts about it. So we decided to hike up there. There's not that many people, so it was amazing because you'd think during spring break it's Zion. Like you're gonna be passing up 1 million people trying to do the trail.
Yeah, because this was also when the virus first started. So it wasn't like a huge deal to still be out and about.
Yeah, so there was actually still a bunch of families camped there and everything. So anyways, we get out there, we do the trail, and it's like a cool morning, but it's felt nice, you know. And as we get to the actual section of Angel's Landing that you start to use the chains and everything, it's just like all of a sudden it started to fog over, and the valley filled up with clouds and you couldn't see anything. And it was like right as we're getting to the top of Angel's Landing, we're like so excited. We're going to sit up there, we're eating a sandwich and, you know, celebrating the hike, and it just a crazy blizzard hits. Like the craziest blizzard. Just rolls in. What is it?
Yeah, whiteout.
Yeah, completely. And it was like scary because it was hitting the rock, and the rock was like a little bit warmer. So in some of the spots it was melting, and it was right on the trail. So you're like holding onto these chains with both your hands, like trying to go down the trail.
Jeez, man.
Yeah, it was intense. And then like as soon as we like get down the chain section, it all just completely clears up and it's back.
It was like beautiful 20 minutes later, awful 20 minutes later, beautiful.
I was terrified because I've hiked Angel's Landing before in like regular weather conditions, and so going up this time when it was snow and the rocks were way more slick from them being wet, way different experience.
There's literally a sign at the bottom that says "Do not attempt if snowing or raining."
Yeah, we were like, oh.
Like we already went like halfway, like 3/4 of the way up, and I was like, we are not turning around after like going this far. Like we're gonna finish this. Like
gotta go full send.
Yep. And so so we did that, and then after that, the trail he's talking about, that was in Capitol Reef National Park. So we did that.
Also super underrated.
That national park was so gorgeous. It was like one of those places you go and you're actually sensing how huge it is. You know, you go to some places and it's like this massive monument, but you kind of feel like on top of it maybe, or you're not among it. But here it's like you're at the base of these crazy, you know, like rock face and everything. Yeah. And it's just orange and red, and it was really
like,
beautiful.
The Grand Canyon's like massive, but it almost looks like a postcard, like you're so high up, and it's like hard to really, like feel the depth of how deep it is. But then like you're in the bottom of the canyon, so like you can really like you look around you and it's just like towering all around you. So it's really cool, like cool vibe for sure.
Yeah, you get the sense of just being tiny.
But when we started off the trail, like this was the coolest part about that park is that the terrain just changed so suddenly. Like when we started off, the dirt was pretty dry. Everything was dry.
Even across the little the riverbed.
Yeah, there's like a little riverbed, but everything was solid bottom. Well, as we keep driving, it like gets into lower land, I guess, and it turns into like more mud, and so we're having to deal with that again in two-wheel drive freaking van that someone's living in.
And if you would have seen it, I'm just gonna interrupt you real quick. If you would have seen the map, it was like, you know, the crazy off-road trail, and it was like this one section, so it shows the trail like here and then here, and those are kind of like the access to the actual trail, and it's, you know, maybe only a third of what it actually says it is. And it's like extremely rough, unmaintained road. Do not attempt without 4-wheel drive. Yeah. We were like, oh, didn't see that.
We had a tow rope, but
got pulled out.
I was gonna ask that. I know that your vehicle is like lightweight and like a pretty awesome off-road vehicle. I used to have a Honda CR-V that was super good in.
Yeah, I've seen those before out there.
But the thing is, it weighs nothing and it's not powerful. Do you think that your van could really actually pull something?
It's not super powerful. When I've pulled people out. I couldn't actually pull Christian out some of those spots because of the angle
going uphill
that we were at. But if someone gets stuck on something that's just like flat, I can pull them out. But
not uphill. If it's downhill or if it was on a flat ground, we've pulled a Winnebago out. We've pulled a Ford Transit that's like the tall one, and a Mercedes Sprinter. So it's like we've pulled.
Those are just the Sprinter guys trying to go where they shouldn't be trying to go.
Right. But as far as power, I mean, our van is actually like, it actually is pretty heavy. The engine and everything, and big tires. And when we added the build, it added a lot of weight. But with the diesel engine, it doesn't really matter about the weight.
Yeah, like that was one of the few people we came into contact with the whole trip. Was when I got stuck, they couldn't tow me out, and then just coincidentally, a truck happens to come down this road that we didn't see anyone the whole time we were on the trail, and he had a Texas license plate, and so there are actually two teachers from Texas who are like, they're teachers, so they're on vacation right now, basically. And yeah, he ended up pulling us out. He had like a Toyota Tacoma or something, and he ended up pulling me out. So.
After 3 hours of digging, bro.
Yeah, 3 hours. We were like scraping snow. Christian was like,
Yeah, because we went,
Yeah,
like it's a weird thing, the scenery changed. So it went from like dry dirt to mud, and then like the GPS said we were like 0.2 miles away from getting to paved road, and it just turns into like straight snow, like deep
no.
snow.
And it was like it
Agreed.
was like to my belly button deep. Like
Yeah.
you could jump in it and it would be waist deep.
I got buried in the snow, and then that Toyota guy, it took us a long time, but he got us out.
But we kept cracking up because he was from Texas, and we were like, okay, we see you.
How were you guys in the cold? How was all that?
It wasn't my first time. Like I honestly just layer up. Like, I mean, working at REI and like growing up with a military dad, like I was always just told you just layer up. Like, and I told Madelyn and Caleb, there's no such thing as bad weather, just bad gear. Like, if you got the right gear, you should be chilling. Yeah, I would go to sleep like when we stayed at colder spots, I had like 3 jackets on and like my long johns and sweatpants but I mean, it's fun. That's what I like. Like I like getting out there and like being out in these wild places, and I'll definitely be investing in like a new Mr. Buddy sometime soon. But
Embrace the pain.
Yeah. We can do the cold. It's not so bad while we're sleeping. It's more so having to like get out of the bed. It's really bad.
We don't do the cold. We
don't
just
do the
keep it
cold.
temporary, keep moving, go to warmer weather always.
Yeah. I was like telling Caleb, I was like, man, we made the wrong decision. We needed to be in Florida or something.
Waste so.
What about Colorado? Where'd you guys go there?
Oh.
We just did a drive through Colorado.
Yeah. We spent like 2 days in Colorado, but we were really booking it at that point because
We'd already split it.
Yeah, we had split up with Christian. Kind of stuff started escalating in Texas, so we were a little worried about like getting back before borders or if anything happened. And then actually, like right when we got back, they closed the Louisiana border, so we were like, oh, like really, really made it on time.
yeah, and I think that's like one of the things I felt bad about when we were traveling is just how fast we were going. But at the same time, like Madelyn and Caleb like had like an end goal, like they were going somewhere, like they were trying to get somewhere from point A to point B. And I was kind of just tagging along. And that's why, like, after we split up, like, they hurried back to Texas. And I kind of, like, really, like, slowed things down because I didn't really have, like, a place I was trying to go, per se. So I would spend more nights at places and stuff. But, like, I think I got, like, maybe a little bit of, like, shade thrown at me for traveling and stuff. But it was all from people who, like, didn't live in vans and didn't, like, really get, like, the circumstances that we're under and stuff. Yeah, like. So.
Yeah.
Because what are the people doing that don't have family or don't have friends? Like, what if you were a hermit or something and you just didn't talk to anybody else?
Or just
like, where are
you
you?
have
What are they
anyone that
doing?
could offer that to you,
Yeah.
Well, Shane's been basically boondocking the whole time.
Really?
Yeah, because he's from New England, and I don't even know if he's anticipating going back there. When we talked to him last week, he was headed to see some family in Phoenix, and so I think he might start doing basically what we're doing, just hunkering down with family and stuff. But I think for most of the time that you guys were out, he's been rolling around too and stuff.
Yeah,
he had
crazy.
Pretty wonderful advice about different things that he's learned or techniques that he's developed for shitting in the dirt.
Yeah.
That's great.
Get the good old trusty shovel hanging out with us the whole trip.
Oh yeah.
You get creative.
Yeah. He started. He sent me this video. The pieces of advice that he gave me, and the best one that's very clear that I had never thought about before is when you get to your spot, just go ahead and dig your hole, man. Before you, oh God, because you don't want to be digging a hole when you got to do it real bad,
Good
like,
point.
Right.
You're like, fuck. I mean, sorry.
But he also said that he's been taking his one pant leg all the way off when he does it, so that but leaving one pant leg on so that he can do a full sprint if he sees a predator coming at him.
You gotta have a game plan.
With one pant leg flying around, like
just one.
I have
we were really super lucky because that was something we were worried about. It's just like, are we really gonna have to live in the woods? You know, like, is that what we're
I
gonna
was down
do?
for it. I was
We were
like, I'm gonna
kinda
start
down for it.
hunting. I've already started fishing with fish fries.
Yeah, we've been like eating all out of the lake, so it's like very interesting. But we were really lucky to be able to have, you know, his uncle's property out here. So we kind of just pulled the van in. We actually were able to take like all of the stuff out of the van, clean it really good. So, you know, we've been learning different things, and we even have been kind of like realizing we need to get rid of even more stuff, I think.
Yeah.
Spring clean.
Yeah, exactly. Spring cleaning. And another thing is we like started investing more time in making TikTok videos, and that's been fun.
Nice. Hey, I'm gonna stop the. It's not gonna let me record for anymore. And so I'm gonna stop the chat and then start it back up. We did purchase something the other day that's been super awesome. Colette, so we have unlimited data on our phones, but watching a movie on this is kind of a bummer.
True.
And Colette's mom's Wi-Fi, there's so much material for her Wi-Fi to have to penetrate that it doesn't work very well out here.
Yeah.
But we got a booster, like a signal repeater,
Nice.
in the garage. And so we've got all the streaming shit in the world in the driveway now, so that's badass.
So it's not one of the boosters you put like on your van?
No, it's just you plug it into a wall socket.
Okay.
So we did that.
It's
Yeah,
like super cheap.
the boosters you put on your van are like $400 or something like that, and this was $20.
I've heard like very mixed things about the ones you like. I've heard that theirs don't even work. Like they told zero difference at all. Like.
Yeah, me too. I've been scared because that's a lot of money to spend, man.
Madelyn and Caleb, you guys have a signal booster, right?
Yeah, we have the Wii Boost that is actually, it's right here. It's the one that is just the phone cradle. So it plugs into the cigarette lighter, and then like on the outside of our car we have mounted.
Don't get it. I don't recommend that.
And then you just like put the phone. This is not sponsored, but okay. The only problem is it goes in your phone like this, and it has like a magnet thing, so it'll stay like mounted for you. But you can only use one phone at a time on it.
Yeah, you can't
it's really
use,
good when you want it, but we need it to be able to like hook up multiple devices, and so that wasn't great for us. But it does work.
In trouble.
That thing gets on my nerves. If I did anything, I would get it to where I had a system that I could put like laptops, phones, whatever's in the car.
Yeah.
And just pay
devices.
for however much it costs, pay for that, because the rest is not even worth it. But
So tell us about your TikTok videos. Are you guys famous yet?
Hey, ask me in like 24 hours, maybe. That's how it works there. But yeah, it's
I'm gonna be
fun.
pissed if we go viral on
A stupid
like,
video.
yeah.
I was like, let's make this video, and it was like really dumb. He was like, I know if we post that one, it's gonna be the one. I was like,
I'll edit videos for 10 hours and then we'll put a like 7-second something stupid on TikTok and it pops off.
So
I'm
annoying.
Like,
The cool thing that I really like about TikTok, and it's funny because my sister, she's 16, and so she was on Musical.ly, which is kind of like what TikTok was at first, was Musical.ly, and she was always like on it, and I thought it was so lame. I was like, I'm never using that. Well, then I downloaded TikTok when we first started traveling, and I was like, I think it'll be fun to post travel videos or whatever. So I did, very rarely though, and then since quarantine, I was like, I'm gonna try to post a new TikTok every single day and just like see how it does. And so like we posted a few. Well, then I posted one of our camp quarantine, and it was like 4 of us, or it's like, 2 vans, 4 of us, and like in 2 days it had over 100,000 views. Wow. So we were like, whoa. And so we're like, okay. So we kept trying to put like a little bit more effort into making them every day. So some days I would post like 2, some days I would just post 1. And the cool thing about them is, like Caleb said, they're short content, and it also is like, for what people are wanting to see on TikTok, you can just do it all in the app. So I can shoot it, edit it, add the music, do everything I need to, add the text or whatever, and it's all in one spot, and then I post it and people see it there. So there's definitely like a really good turnaround as far as creating content on there. And I convinced Christian to make one, so he made one.
You made one?
Yeah,
I made one. I put up my first. I did one video. I haven't done one since. But
What is it?
yeah, it's
Is
fun.
it dance?
It's fun. I have a short attention span, so those quick videos, like, I can get lost in the app for a while.
I'm telling you. And like the other thing is, I feel like, especially in a time like this, you see a lot of people flocking to TikTok. And I think it was because it was always kind of the fun app. You know, it's not really somewhere that people are really going and posting, you know, like the ups and downs of their life. And I'm not saying that like the ups and downs are a bad thing, but it's definitely a place that people can go and they'll just find useful information or like fun random stuff, or, you know, just something that makes them smile or laugh. And so that was kind of my goal with our TikTok, was like, hey, let's just make stuff that when people watch it, they're either going to smile, they're going to laugh, they're going to get something out of it, they're going to learn something about either traveling or van life or whatever. So like the one that did pop off right at first with our group, it was just about what people that live in vans, like what their living room is like, and it would be outside, right? So we just talked about a few of the things you do outside of your van, and people loved it. And then, you know, they want to know more, like, oh, okay, so how do you charge your phone? So, you know, a couple days later, I make a video about how we charge our phones. It's just like little things. And it's been pretty fun, I think, posting on there.
Yeah.
Nice. What's happening with you in photography right now, Christian?
I haven't shot in a while. I mean, I was shooting a bunch with Madelyn and Caleb, and then when I was with Seth and Dave, I was shooting a lot. But at the Airbnb, I've just been like really just like relaxing. I've been editing a lot of stuff, and I had like a couple brand shots that I was supposed to send out that I'd never got around to. So I was able to like get some good Wi-Fi and send out some brand shots that I was working on. So like mostly just like catching up on work the past week. Been like editing a lot of shots, but I haven't gone out and taken pictures around here in Idyllwild at all. I mean, it like the first day I got here, we got like snowed in, so I've been like haven't even been able to like leave the driveway for like a week. Today, like everything's starting to melt. Like yesterday and today, the sun came out and everything's like melting now. But yeah, I was just kind of like I was just hunkered down. I was eating a lot of food and watching a lot of music.
This is a time for van lifers to put on some weight.
Yeah.
Tiger King, like I saw that. Watched a bunch of scary movies, like. Just binge watched everything basically. Yeah.
we pulled up to the camp, and all of a sudden we're like, okay, so like what's there to do here, you know? And we like walk inside, and he has a little tiny like flat screen, you know, and we're like, okay, he has a DVD player. And then we look, and he had a VHS player. So y'all know, me and Crystal, who is a part of Earthbud's van, if y'all are familiar with her and her YouTube channel, but we went thrift shopping with face masks, and we went to Goodwill, and we picked up like a ton of VHS tapes. And so we both were like, all right, we're gonna limit ourselves to like $5. Let's see how many we can get. And so we went in there, and we both picked out 5 because we were like, okay, yeah, like that'll be $1 each. She ended up giving them to us for like 25 cents a piece. So we got a ton of awesome VHS, and we were watching them, I think sometimes 2 a day. We were watching 2 VHSs. So that was interesting.
Did you get any homemade ones?
Oh, see, that was what I was afraid of. I was like, and it's his uncle, so I was like, man, I really don't want to put one in here, and it's not what we think.
Poured it over. Little homemade.
Yeah, you
Stuck
have
in
the handwriting on the side. You're like, I don't know if that is Flashdance, or is it something else?
That's funny.
Well, it's great to catch up with you guys. Is there anything else you feel like you need to share right now?
Stay safe, stay healthy.
Stay safe, stay healthy.
Let us travel soon. World.
Roam responsibly.
Roam responsibly.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a crazy time. I'm kind of hyped to see like what the next couple of weeks and months hold. I mean, I've seen a lot of people kind of acknowledging the fact that there's not going to be a vaccine anytime soon, and we can't be quarantined forever. So some people are talking about, you know, eventually there being people that are less susceptible to the disease or to the virus starting to be able to go outside and stuff to build natural immunity to it. I've heard people saying like that's kind of the next step would be, if there's no vaccine, we need to start getting like natural immunity. So fingers crossed that like in the next couple of weeks or months, things start opening up, at least for people that are at less risk of the virus. So we'll see on that. I mean, I'm just excited for national parks and state parks to open back up, and I can start climbing again and stuff. I mean, that's what I just miss, like climbing and being able to go out and hike and stuff without having to worry about getting kicked off and stuff, or having to worry about, you know, putting anyone in danger or anything. So just
that brings up a question that I meant to ask earlier. You said that you got a little vibe for traveling and stuff, but have you guys gotten messed with at all?
No, but when I was in Mammoth, I was at a hot spring and we were talking to some other people that were traveling, and they were telling us like horror stories. Like they were saying that in Bishop, people's tires were getting slashed and stuff. Their license plates were from a different state, and they said when they got back to their van, it said like "Go Home" written on their window and stuff.
Wow.
Like I know Bishop's a big climbing community, and I know the climbing community in particular has been like super like strict on like, you know, like if you're a climber and you are out climbing right now, like you're gonna get a lot of shit from other climbers and stuff, and they've been like super, which is awesome that they're being really responsible about it, but like, you know, like I would hate for someone to mess with someone else's vehicle or property because of
It's not cool no matter what.
Yeah, it's weird.
Not knowing what circumstances they're in or not knowing what position they're in. Like, I hope they're just horror stories, not true. I've yet to have any like problem, and when I've gone into towns and have had to come into contact with people, I usually ask them like, yo, like, what do you think about like people living in vans? Because I've come into contact with a few people, locals from different places, and for the most part, everyone seems pretty chill. Like once they hear the circumstances that like we're not just like traveling for fun, you know, we're trying to find a place that we can stay without getting kicked out and finding our own place to hunker down. So yeah, I definitely have heard like horror stories, but they all have been like out of like climbing communities, like Moab and Bishop. Those are like the two places I heard where people are getting messed with. We're huge climbing towns, so. I know like the whole climbing community has been really strict on the like do not leave your home thing, which is great. But
that's super interesting to hear because you know, a lot of the surfing community that I'm sort of listening to on social media and stuff is really pissed off that they can't go surfing right now.
Yeah, that's so weird.
I'm proud of the climbing community to be doing the opposite thing, right?
Yeah.
Localism is a thing that I've always been super opposed to, and it's big in the surfing community, and it's just always, to me, it's been really ironic that some white boy standing on stolen Native American property can think that he owns some surf break.
It's the ocean, dude. Like, you don't own the
I feel
ocean.
like Seaside is. I feel like Seaside is like the most localized like break in Encinitas that I can think of. I mean, Swami's can be like that, but I've never had a problem with Swami's, and I've been surfing there for a long time. But like I know Seaside, like I've seen a couple fights at Seaside for stuff like that. So yeah, I think like the climbing community, it's weird how like the surfing community is like wanting to surf, and the climbing community is the like complete opposite. It's just there's so many polar opposites I think right now. Some people are like, don't leave your house for any reason at all. Like, it doesn't matter what it is. And some people think you should be able to go surf or skate or bike or whatever it may be. So I'm not really on either side. I'm just kind of like hearing both sides of the story and trying to find where I stand. But I mean, like I said, it's a crazy time that this has never happened before in anyone's life that I've talked to. No one's ever experienced something like this. So, I mean, just take it day by day. And, you know, if you're doing the best you can, that's all I think you can ask of people. I don't think you should be slashing tires or writing stuff on people's cars.
Right.
People are trying their best out here. Like, you can't expect everyone to be in the same situation as you, where they have a shower and a laundry and a house to stay at. Like,
yeah, exactly.
In their own circumstances, and I think everyone's trying to like do the best they can, and that's all you can really ask for. I think we should be more positive and like uplifting about that, and not be like criticizing people who are traveling, maybe, or surfing or whatever it may be, or climbing. I think people are. I mean, you know, everyone's trying their best. So I think trying to be as positive as possible and build people up and not be putting people down for whatever situation they're in.
Yeah, I think that goes for traveling in the future also, because, I mean, traveling as a community or traveling as people who are travelers full time, because when we're driving through Colorado, there was some towns that, like, before you get into the town on the interstate, there was the big, you know, LED signs, and it was like, no travelers in this town, you know, whatever. And it was like, keep driving, basically. And they didn't want people that were on the highway to like exit to like stop at any of their stops. And I thought that was really weird. And then, you know, I read a lot about, you know, people who are traveling, or even, you know, specific ethnicities getting more heat right now during this time, which is really interesting. But I think in the future for travelers, we might kind of sense that, localism in a lot of places, because if it's a small town, even after this is over, you know, if they say it's going to take a while to get vaccines,
I think it's going to take years for people to get
get over kind of like this PTSD of like, oh, I'm scared of like people who I don't know or people who aren't in my community.
Well, just for people to have peace of mind again, you know, because it will take years for that to get normal.
Yeah, because right now I think a lot of people, and even us, honestly, our whole lifestyle has changed, as have a lot of people. And I think it kind of leaves us all wondering, like, how, you know, even us who we thought we didn't rely on the system very much, and we see such a dramatic change in our lifestyle, and it's like, wait, you know, we obviously still do in a lot of ways, for laundry, for bathrooms, for things that we take for granted, you know. And I think in the future it's going to be the smartest thing to learn how to rely less and less on that, because I think the people who don't, you know, the people who are off grid and they're not relying on the typical societal resources, they're fine right now, and their lifestyle hasn't truly changed that much, except for maybe, you know, shortages on things. But for travelers, I think we'll see this as like Christian said earlier, the new normal is, it might be that, you know, we really have to put out a positive kind of aura around us, and the positive connotation on traveling, and make sure that we're showing people that it is a good thing, and we're trying to do good as we travel and spread positivity and not spread a virus.
Right. One last question I have is, I was curious from both you guys, like, or all four of you guys, do you think like this whole scenario will like have an effect on like van life? As in, do you think it's going to become more popular because of this? Do you think there's going to be more people who like want to be off grid and stuff, or do you see maybe it not having much of an effect at all on van life?
I guess we can answer, and then I'd like to hear from Marty and Colette too. But we've talked about it. We thought, you know, I think it'll inspire a lot of people to do that. But as with van life in general, there's a lot of people who say that they want to do it, and then the people who actually do it is like 30% maybe.
Yeah,
you know?
I've talked to people about that. People who say they're going to do it versus people who actually do it. But yeah,
I think that it'll definitely be more people inspired, and inherently that will probably mean more people that would do it. But it's such a small scale, like a ratio.
It reminds me of like the doomsday preppers. That's what I think it's going to be like. I think it's going to be more that style of
maybe
van
tiny
life.
Homes and off-grid living might, but I don't know necessarily about van life.
Stuff like that, bunkers.
Yeah, like, just because I still see a huge decline in our lifestyle of what we used to do versus what we're doing right now during all of this. It's not like, you know, amazing and luxurious and fun and traveling. It's like kind of boring. You're just sitting around, or you have to find adventure like among your daily life, you know. And it just is different than, you know, finding it one day in Zion and the next day in Capitol Reef.
I think that it's going to be, I think at the moment everybody is just in a holding pattern, you know. How do I not lose what I've got, whether it's my job or my car or my house or rent, you know, my apartment or whatever it is. I feel like everybody's sort of waiting to see whether we're in this exact holding pattern for 2 years or until April 30th or whatever, now that we're past Easter. And I feel like, on the one hand, I feel super fortunate to have just finished this van. If I was in the middle of this build right now, I'd be so scared, right? I already hemorrhaged all the money into this van, and I'm not going to get it back. But I'm also super happy, and we still own the Metris, but both of my van payments together are still less than the last couple of apartments that I rented.
Nice.
Together. And so I feel super fortunate to have such low overhead right now.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that aspect of the thing is going to attract people to this van deal. It's like, if you're I heard something through social media, a meme through social media last night that said millennials have now experienced their second once in a lifetime economic disaster, right? And so to the extent that you look at the last decade and a half, and this is going to be I think this is going to be a worse recession than the 2008 thing when all is said and done. And so in the context where people are seeing that our economy is super volatile and vulnerable, then they're going to want to have like a lower footprint, lower overhead situation. But like you guys were saying, like, you know, there's sort of this pyramid of how much we rely on communal goods and societal property and stuff. It's like if you live in a house in West Texas that's 20 miles from everything else with solar panels on top of it, you're less reliant on laundromats than somebody who lives in an apartment in New York City, right? But we're even more reliant than apartment dwellers on laundromats, public restrooms, public sinks, and that sort of thing. Our gyms are all shut down right now. And so to the extent that, like Caleb's saying, to the extent that people have PTSD for a few years about this sort of thing, that uncertainty is gonna make selling van life to people a lot more difficult.
Anything.
Right.
Selling anything.
Yeah.
It's gonna be scary, but it'll be fun.
I feel like maybe there's a handful of people that will turn to van life as a more as a financial thing, because it's just a cheaper lifestyle. And then on my brain went to, like, I feel there are a lot of people that are going to come out of this with a lot of financial trouble, and they're probably going to have to live in their cars because they have to. Not the opposite.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
Those are the people that I just thought about.
Yeah, for sure.
It's going to be a lot of,
But I think it's going to be also at the same time, if you're, and not that I'm saying it's ideal, but if that was someone's situation, is all of a sudden they're thrown into like, oh, now I have to live in my car or my SUV or van or whatever they have. It's like, I think nowadays there's such great resources. Even with everything limited, it's like the internet alone is such an amazing resource that we have that can help people figure out little hacks. And just like you said, you know, when you're talking to Shane, his one-legged hack, like, you know, there's different things that we're all here to help people learn. And I think it's not just going to be the hashtag van life anymore that's like van dwellers and travelers. I think hashtag van life, it might turn into people, everyday people who now literally live in their vehicle day to day, or maybe that community grows more and kind of evens out the travelers versus the, you know, people just
or it'll
living.
create a bigger split of homelessness versus like people working and living out of their van.
Yeah.
You never know.
And it might create a shift in policy. Like, will governments decide to be more accepting? Because the policies that, like what we saw in San Diego, they're not fighting for us when it comes to these vehicular habitation laws. They're fighting for the people who like don't have other options. So shift in policy. Stuff like
so maybe it could be a good thing like that.
Yeah, maybe it starts to get the word out, you know.
That's definitely like what I would hope would come out of this is, you know, some good things, just like pointing out the flaws in our government, like how this has affected so many people and how we were, in my opinion, very unprepared. And then like even smaller things like just how the van life community is looked at as a whole. Like I hope there's definitely some good that comes out of this whole situation. I hope people realize how finite their time is on this earth, and how, I mean, if you even though I'm not in a age range that's, you know, a high risk for this virus, like I definitely hope that people see it as like I could be gone at any day, you know, my life could be gone at any day, and I hope people really live for the moment and not.
Yeah.
There's some people who've just been working their whole lives, gone to school, and are just trying to save up for retirement, and I hope they realize like retirement might not never come for you. You know, you might be working your whole life for a day that's never going to come. So I hope there's a big like shift in how people think, you know, what makes people happy, and just more aware of what they want to do with their lives.
I hope that, you know, same thing. And it's like the technology and everything going digital is kind of like the Trojan horse of like people starting to live their own lives and live like intentionally and live with their truth, you know. And maybe, like I said, this whole digital era and everything being online, maybe it brings that in for us and for new people who want to get into it.
Yeah.
Well, this has been uplifting, guys.
I'm glad to talk to both of you guys. I haven't seen any of you or all four of you guys in such a long time, so I'm just glad to see you guys' faces again.
It's nice to see some people who are not the same, you know, a couple people that we've seen the past 21 days.
Yeah.
Some fresh but old faces.
Fresh but old faces.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, you guys, thanks for doing this, and stay safe. Take care of yourselves, okay?
Yeah. Let me know when you get more beer, and we can do another Zoom call.
Yeah. We'll drink together.
All right. Peace out, y'all.
Bye,
Great
guys.
talking.
Let's go.
Love you
Bye.
too. All right, guys. We did it. that was episode 56 of From the Van. Thanks so much for listening. If you stuck around this long, really appreciate it. And I hope that you enjoyed the episode. We'll have another one for you around next Tuesday of From the Van.